Good morning, Ferri Middle School. Today is day D. The order of the periods is 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, and 3.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Please be seated. And now to today's history and sports.
Here's a look at this day in history. November 4th.
In 1922, explorer Howard Carter began uncovering King Tut's tomb. On this day in 1924, Nellie Taylor Ross of Wyoming was elected America's first woman governor. This day in 1979, anti-American demonstrators stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and held 90 people inside hostage. And on this day in 1956, Soviet tanks crushed the Hungarian Revolution. What began in October as mass demonstrations in central Budapest demanding an end to Soviet rule became a revolt. Ordinary Hungarians battled Soviet troops and security police. And finally, on November 4th, Soviet tanks were ordered in to put down the uprising. 30,000 died, thousands more fled to the west. And that's this day in history.
Last night, it's up to Portsmouth to
Hi, I'm Alicia Fortunati.
And I'm Lucas Anderson.
And you're watching Ferri Live. The weather today is sunny with a high temperature of 53 degrees and a low of 34 degrees. The wind speed is 3 miles per hour. The wind direction is east and the humidity today is 77%. Today's lunch is scheduled as the following. First lunch is any 8th grader who has skills, health, world language, or geometry and skills. Second lunch is 6 blue and 6 white. Third lunch is 7 blue and 7 white. And fourth lunch is any 8th grader that has PE, art, or music.
You're lucky.
Today's quote of the day is by Joe Namath. If you aren't going all the way, why go at all?
Wise words.
Yes. Attention students and teachers, the Scholastic Book Fair is coming in November. The dates are Thursday, November 21st, Friday, November 22nd, and Monday, November 25th. Lots of great book titles and gift ideas will be for sale. Book talks will start next week for our raffle. Stay tuned. I repeat, the Scholastic Book Fair is coming in November. The dates are Thursday, November 21st, Friday, November 22nd, and Monday, November 25th. Lots of great book titles and gift ideas will be for sale. Book talks will start next week for our raffle. Stay tuned. Thank you. Attention students and teachers, there is a joke submission box in the library. If you would like to submit a joke for Ferri Live, please bring it down to this blue submission box. Thank you. These items were found throughout the building. If they are yours, please claim them in the library as soon as possible. And now to Lucas.
Thank you, Alicia. Today's joke of the day is... Thank you. Why did the zombie cross the road to Dairy Queen?
Why?
Because he wanted a brain surd.
Okay.
Today's fun fact, Jingle Bells was written for Thanksgiving, not Christmas.
That is so weird.
I know, right? Attention 8th graders. There will be an 8th grade Washington trip meeting on Tuesday, November 5th, tomorrow, at 6 p.m. for parents. I repeat, attention 8th graders. There will be an 8th grade Washington trip meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, November 5th, at 6 p.m. for parents. Thank you. Starting today, November 4th, we will only broadcast the Ferri Live program on YouTube Live. Mr. Pistacco sent the link for students and teachers to subscribe. Students can watch directly on their lone devices after subscribing. Teachers can also display live by Chromecast or direct wire HDMI on their screen. Most advisories have the connection. If you need the HDMI cable to connect to your screen, please ask Mr. Pistacco. A student's device can also be connected if your device is needed for attendance. The Channel 1 system will be discontinued on today, November 4th. We will no longer be able to broadcast movies in this manner. Thank you. We are asking for every student to please give your clean styrofoam trays to the members of the green team. Yes, every lunch. If they are clean, keep it clean. And do the right thing. Your earth thanks you. Ferri, forever educating respectful, responsible individuals.
That's all for today. I'm Alicia Fortunati.
And I'm Lucas Anderson. We'll have more news for you next time.
Until then, have a marvelous Monday.
Welcome to CNN 10, your source for down-the-middle explanations of news events. I'm Carl Azus at the CNN Center. Hope you had a great weekend. We're getting started with a look at a recent vote in the U.S. House of Representatives concerning President Donald Trump and the issue of impeachment. Late last week, the House voted 232 to 196 to formalize its impeachment inquiry of the president. This was not a vote to impeach President Trump or to formally put him on trial. This was a vote to make an investigation official to establish the rules for how it'll be carried out. And according to Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, it was a vote to help lawmakers decide whether to eventually impeach the president. It went mostly along party lines. Democrats control the House of Representatives. They hold the majority of seats there. And all but two of them voted to move forward with the investigation. The remaining two Democrats joined all House Republicans in voting against having a formal investigation. This is happening because of a controversial phone call that President Trump had in late July with the president of Ukraine. We explained that call in our September 26th show, and you can find it in our archives at cnn10.com. Speaker Pelosi says House Democrats have no choice but to investigate President Trump because they, quote, took an oath to protect and defend our democracy, and that is what he has made an assault on. The president says he's done nothing wrong. And House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy said last week's vote shows there's only bipartisan opposition to the inquiry, not in favor of it.
Well, what's next for the impeachment process? The Democrats who run the House of Representatives may decide, there's just not enough here for the House Judiciary Committee to vote articles of impeachment, and they'll just close the investigation. Another possibility is that the House Judiciary Committee does vote articles of impeachment, and then the full House will have to vote on whether Donald Trump will be impeached. Now, if there is a majority in support of impeachment, Donald Trump doesn't lose his office. That's like a formal charge. It's like an indictment. So if Donald Trump is indicted the way Bill Clinton was impeached, then the case will go to the United States Senate. There has to be a trial presided over by John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the United States. And after that trial, the Senate will have to vote on whether to convict Donald Trump. It takes 2/3, 67 votes in the Senate, to remove a president from office. I think most people believe at the end of the day, there is almost no chance that Donald Trump will be convicted in the Senate. So the question that is on everyone's mind is, what will the effect of this whole impeachment process be on the 2020 election?
10-second trivia. Which of these U.S. government agencies is the oldest? U.S. Census Bureau, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Department of Transportation, or Food and Drug Administration? The Bureau of Labor was established in 1884, making it the oldest agency on this list. The Bureau of Labor Statistics releases its Employment Situation Summary on the first Friday of every month. It's also called the jobs report, which is easier to say, and it gives a snapshot of how the U.S. economy did the month before. So the latest report says in October, American employers added 128,000 jobs. That was better than what economists expected. They predicted an 89,000 job gain. And part of the reason for that was the recent strike at General Motors. It officially ended late in October, but it had taken 46,000 auto employees out of the workforce. And economists had thought it was going to be a bigger drag on the jobs market than it ended up being. The unemployment rate, which is a percentage of American workers who want but don't have a job, increased to 3.6%. It was 3.5% the month before. But analysts say there's a silver lining to that because it showed more Americans were looking for work. One area of concern was in manufacturing. The October jobs report says there were 36,000 jobs lost in that sector, and the BLS commissioner says that was impacted by the auto workers' strike. But this doesn't necessarily signal that a recession is on the way.
It's the dreaded R word, recession. Now, technically, recession is defined as 2 straight quarters of negative economic growth. But ironically, the National Bureau of Economic Research, which officially dates US recessions, doesn't quite agree. It defines recession as a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months. The NBR doesn't just look at GDP, but other factors too, like income, employment, and industrial production. But notice how it says spread across the economy. That's important. Why? Because recessions can happen in one sector, but without dragging the whole economy down. We saw that in 2015 and 2016, for example, too. That was when manufacturing fell into recession, but the rest of the US economy did not. The big question today is, will history repeat itself? And why we're asking that question is because US manufacturing is once again back in technical recession. But here's the key. Although manufacturing isn't doing well, it's only a small share of the US economy. We're talking 11%. The modern American economy is driven by other things like consumers and services, and that represents around 70% of economic activity. The danger, though, is that weakness in manufacturing could then spill over into that bigger driver of the economy. And that's the thing about recessions. They do have a tendency to be self-fulfilling. If Americans start worrying about the economy and hearing about layoffs, for example, at factories, they may decide to spend a bit less. Perhaps they delay bigger purchases. And that's when a fear of an economic downturn can actually bring on a real one and bring the dreaded R word firmly back into play.
Most of America has fallen back to standard time. That's what we call it when we're not on daylight saving time. But when you think about the fact that we spend most of the year on daylight saving time, standard is hardly the standard. Still, our current standard was set on Sunday morning. It'll last until March 8th. And despite what my colleague Jennifer Gray is about to tell you, you only get the extra hour of sleep if you go to bed on time the night of the switch. Those who stay up an hour later on Saturday may still seem sleepy on Sunday.
So why don't we change the clocks ahead 1 hour in the spring and back 1 hour in the fall? Well, it's actually to reduce the electricity consumption by extending the daylight hours. In the US, we change our clocks at 2 a.m. on the second Sunday in March. That begins daylight saving time. That's when we spring ahead. On the first Sunday in November, we change our clocks at 2 a.m. again. That's actually just going back to standard time. Believe it or not, this started with an idea from Benjamin Franklin. Franklin did write an essay suggesting that people could use less candles if they got up early and made better use of daylight. In 1918, the Standard Time Act established time zones and daylight saving time, but not all states participate. To this day, most of Arizona and all of Hawaii do not change their clocks. Over 70 countries across the world observe daylight saving time, with notable exceptions of China and Japan. In 2007, we actually changed the date of when we set our clocks back an hour to the first week in November. This helped protect trick-or-treaters by giving them an extra hour of daylight. One of the other lines of thinking was that we would have a better voter turnout on election years. Experts say each time you change your clocks, it's always a good idea to change those batteries in your smoke detector. And always look forward to fall when you get that extra hour of sleep.
Mom didn't have to tell me not to play baseball inside because, well, smash. That's the very same reason why this seems like it might not be the best idea. But it's not like you could just step outside to play on the International Space Station, and the ball travels farther in microgravity. So if astronauts Jessica Meir, Christina Cook, and Andrew Morgan can't attend the World Series, maybe they can just very carefully see how this plays out. Of course, if they're all Astros fans, the real thing wouldn't have been a washing ton of fun for them. But who needs baseball when you've got spaceball? Who needs to knock one out of the park when you're already out of the atmosphere? Without gravity, there are no infield flies, no sinkers, no grounders, yet every game is an out-of-this-world series. I'm Carl Azus for CNN.